there, people of the internet. My name is Ruto Jagero, and this is Political Headache. I am in the studio with Mr. Omondi.
Yes.
I like calling people with their. I don't know whether that's a tribal name, whether it's indigenous name.
It's a tribal name.
Yeah, but what is your English name?
My name is Alan.
Alan.
Yes.
Alan Omondi.
Omondi Kinawa. So Alan is a bit popular. A lot of my friends, my family, people call me Alan.
Yeah.
And then Omondi is, I don't like it myself.
Yeah.
Because I like to disguise myself. You know, we are highly tribal society. So if you say you are Omondi, it's very easy to place you.
But that is a shame. Is it not?
I mean, it's part of our lived reality that we profile people, you know, based on where they come from.
Yeah, I have always thought that a lot of people profile me as being Oduor Jagero. But also, even if they don't profile me, even if I don't say a name, bro, my accent is always giving me away.
We'll sell you out.
Yeah, it always...
I was actually interested to know if you get to the constructive morphemes of Jagero. So Jagero is Ja, where you come from, and then Gero, what does it mean?
No, it's actually the entire name. The entire name is my grandfather's name.
But
actually, Jagero is a whole name. It's not Janakach. It's different from Janakach.
Okay,
different from Jagoro or Jasiaya. No, this is just a complete name.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jagero means the cruel one.
Wow. Okay.
Or some people confuse it with Jagedo, which is the builder.
So you are a cruel one.
No, I don't think so. But it is my witch name.
Ah, okay.
You know witch names in Luo?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So Nyingi Majuok.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. You yes. I don't know if you've never thought about a witch name. A witch name is basically your spiritual ID.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, there are so many Omondis. But how do the spirits know that the Omondi that we are discussing on the table is Alan?
Okay.
So then Omondi is Nyingi Majuok, but it's also your spiritual ID.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah. So anyway, people of the internet, this is Political Headache. Today I am with Alan. Alan, I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself, and then I will tell the audience that we are going to be discussing the tour of Mount Kenya and what it means for Ruto. You know that Linturi is not going. Kindiki is not going.
Okay.
The former speaker is not going. Kuria is not going.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am wondering whether he's gonna have a good time on the Mount, and Gachagua obviously is not going. You know, Tell me about yourself, Mr. Alan.
So my name is Alan Omondi Kinawa. Alan is a curious individual. I brand myself as a political thinker, and most importantly, I have a lot of interest about this country. I think we have a beautiful country. Our politics and the polarization and the division and the rhetoric notwithstanding, we have a beautiful country. Yeah.
Okay. You are a researcher.
I am a researcher, yes.
What do you research about?
I am a research associate with Harvard University, so currently researching.
Why don't you talk about Harvard properly, bro? Why are you not? Why are you talking? Why are you not talking about Harvard?
Let me just say it in passing like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that suffices for that part of the introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually interested now on a subject that probably we'll have a discussion about later on refugee integration. So that's my interest for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raila Odinga is going to the mountain once again, and I think
Ruto, you mean?
Yes, Ruto.
Okay.
Did I say Raila?
You said Raila.
Sorry.
Still stuck in 2022. Should move on.
I should move on. Yeah. So Ruto is going to the mountain again. The other day he was in his large farm where he's apparently doing wheat.
Okay.
On a huge, large scale. And I posted that video, and a lot of people were very cross with me. And if you look at the names that were cross with me, they were mostly people from the mountain that are very bitter and very, that feel very betrayed by the president, William Ruto. We have his former appointment in on the mountain, Mr. Gachagua. since divorced him politically, and we have several of them that have divorced him politically. Didi Nyoro, we have Linturi, we have Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria
and
is
many others.
and
Some
many
non-aligned.
and many others.
Yeah.
Ruto, sorry, Ruto going to the mountain appears to be what just happened the other day when the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Vance, decided to go to Greenland.
Okay.
He was supposed to go for the sled, to watch the dogs compete in Greenland, and also go to the army base in Greenland. But then there were so many opposing voices from the Greenland government. Did not like they said that he is not welcome together with his wife, and Denmark also gave the lady prime minister also said that Vance going to Greenland is an act of aggression, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that we can draw parallels and say that, the kind of tour that Ruto is going to do could also be seen as what Mr. Vance was doing. What do you think that we can draw parallels?
Maybe it mirrors on our reality here, maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going back to the mountain, or should I say the rainy uplands.
Yeah.
It's raining both physically and in other senses as well. And this is 6 months later.
After the ouster of Gachagua?
Not really. The last time he was in the mountain was 6 months later.
Yeah.
6 months ago, rather.
How did that look like? Did we have the vice president? We had the vice president as Mr. Gachagua?
This is no, we didn't have him.
He was already out.
He was already out, and it didn't go quite well. All right. This must have been in Embu, is it not? Yeah, it must have been in Embu. So I think a good place to start with would be to sort of ask if this is a good move or not. And maybe there is no right answer to that. But I think it is within his mandate, as a president to tour the country. And that finds meaning within Article 131. In the functions of the president, Article 132, you don't find it clearly, explicitly stated. But Article 131 mandates the president to work ways of ensuring national unity. So probably is going out there to sell the agenda of Jubilee, rather UDA government. But there are people who are also saying that, look, you're wasting time. We are not seeing value for money because it's costly for president to be out there. There are people who are also saying that we end up more polarized if we have a president out there atop the roof of the vehicles and, just doing a lot of campaigns. So whether it's going to turn the tide, because it is already a very charged political situation. We see a lot of inflamed passions post the ouster of Rigathi Gachagua. So whether that is going to yield some sort of change is something to look out for. But it's going to be an interesting 5 days or so to watch. So he'll start off in Laikipia, and his tour on Friday in Tharaka Nithi, and 5 counties in between. The other thing that is interesting is that I think there's been a lot of reorganization in the schedule. So he was set to appear in certain places. He was set to have a meeting in Sagana that was sort of recalled and reordered. So I think that fits within the growing tension that is within the Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So according to Citizen,
Yeah.
Kenya,
Yeah.
he's going to be in Laikipia, he's
Yeah.
going to be in Nyeri, he's
Yeah.
going to be in Meru, Kirinyaga, Nyandarua, Murang'a, Embu, Tharaka Nithi, and Kiambu counties.
Oh, Kiambu is listed now.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I don't know whether Kiambu is Mount Kenya.
See it it is actually the hotbed of the resistance. There's a lot of hostility
From Kiambu.
From Kiambu, yes.
But I think there is a guy from Kiambu that is very much close to the president.
Who's the guy again?
The guy is, I don't know what his name is, but there is a senator who is the senator of Kiambu?
Those are sworn enemies.
Who?
Karango Athangwa and President Ruto don't see eye to eye.
But then there is another guy.
Who's the guy?
There is a guy from Kiambu.
Who's the guy?
Is it an MP?
Okay. Because I think Kawanjiku is allied to Gachagua.
Yeah.
Yeah? I don't think...
There is a guy that went in. The guy that was in the UK the other day with Zeteo, with the Zeteo founder, with Al Jazeera.
Ichungwa.
Yes.
Okay.
Is Ichungwa not from Kiambu?
Ichungwa is from
He's not an MP?
Kikuyu constituency, which is
in Kiambu County.
Kiambu County, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are people who still support him. I don't think it is fair to say the mountain has shifted. Well, it has shifted radically, but that is not to say that everyone who was part of the Ruto bandwagon in 2022 has since left. There are probably traces of support here and there that is still...
Who would you say is supporting the president in Mount Kenya right now?
You've just stated Kimani Ichung'wah.
Yeah, but...
The woman representative Muranga has been touring various pockets of the county to tell people to be receptive of the president. And probably a couple more. But for sure there's growing tension there.
You've said that it is within the mandate of the president to tour the Mount Kenya region.
Yeah.
But what do you think is the reason why he's going there?
Maybe to try...
Apart from him being just his mandate, what else? Why is he there?
Maybe as a containment strategy to try calm people down and just remind them that we are well within the course of what we were supposed to do, as he has done across the country, in other areas that he has visited before. But now there's an emerging perception that increasingly Mount Kenya is being sidelined. So maybe this is a push to try and tell them that we are part of the government. But there's something, Jagero, that is very interesting about the Kikuyu voters that I don't know we find time to discuss. But there's
we could discuss it now.
We could discuss it. I think Kikuyu voters, they have a single-minded focus on development, if you ask me. And you see a lot of political discussions shaped around issues of coffee, issues of milk, issues of tea. And so that they feel so cheated that the government has not delivered is to speak to the fact that there is a disconnect between what the president has promised in the past and the reality now. The Gulf is as wide as Indian Ocean. So maybe that explains why there's growing malcontent. Of course,
do you know some of those things that Ruto promised that he has not delivered on?
Of course, you remember when Ruto was campaigning, he had this approach where he would bring people from a particular county to speak about county-specific needs. And for Mount Kenya, those were the critical issues of value addition. And of course, I think, unfortunately, the environment, the climate is so inflamed and so charged that we don't objectively, look at some of these things. But I think there's been progress in coffee. Gachagua was spearheaded tea reforms and whatnot. Maybe some of that was lost in between, but a lot of conversations and a lot of campaign promises went into reforms around that area. I don't know what happens when he goes to other counties. Yeah, so when he went to Kisumu, you remember, that's the time they had conversations about sugar reforms, right? And other places that he's gone to. So I think it is well-intended initiative to ensure that, the country is moving together. the part that I don't agree with is when now he decides to get on top of the vehicles and starts the political rhetoric. I think that's a part that I don't agree with. But that you can gather people together and speak about area-specific needs, I think is well intended. Yeah.
But what do you mean that he cannot be atop the car and
No, typically what we see is if he were not in Mount Kenya, if this coming week he was to be in, say, Mombasa, he'd be talking about Gachagua and, about the type of a deputy president he had leading up to the impeachment.
Yeah.
He'd talk about, how Raila is part of broad-based. Those are conversations that we don't expect to feature in the Mount Kenya visit. Yes, and it is replicated across the country. He'll pick a specific conversation piece that is part of a current conversation and run with it. And by the time he's done, it becomes a political circus and people pick on it and it becomes part of the conversation for days.
But I think it would be very important for him to stand on top of the car and explain to people why Gachagua was not the right person to lead the country with in the region, in Mount Kenya, in the larger Mount Kenya region.
I don't think so. I think if this guy was a problem, as he said to have been a problem, I think that's in the distant past. If we are to move forward, then he should constrain himself to what is important in the now. What Gachagua was and what he was not able to do is not, any important in my assessment of things. And of course, they have a say in I've forgotten the word, but they have they feel betrayed. So Ruto is I think Gatia or something, a traitor. So if you're going to drive a narrative that he did this, he did not do this, he's part of the problem, and you are in his perceived backyard, I think that is stalking chaos and division that we don't want to see moving forward. Yeah.
Are there things, for example, do we know the things that he's going to do, especially in like Kipia, in Nyeri? Do we know anything that he's going to be doing there?
Yeah. So, for example, in Nyeri, he was set to open Ruringu Stadium, and remember, Ruringu is quite symbolic. Remember the famous donkey speech that Kenyatta gave during the Mau struggle?
No.
You've not heard about it?
No, I've not. Can you tell me about it?
So what happened is Kenyatta went to the community and told them that colony, this colonialist is like a donkey. So we have the burden of looking at the parts to hold. So you, I think, hold other parts. I will hold the legs or something. And so that was symbolic of the sort of agitation and clamor that would attend quest for independence. So that became a symbol of armed struggle. Yeah, and other programs lined up for the visit.
So perhaps the most important one is the one that is going to be doing in Meru.
In Meru, okay.
Or Nyeri. Because it is not really clear what he's going to be doing where.
Yeah, it's not clear. And what he said is, for example, in Nyeri, that instead of now coming to Ruringu Stadium, he'll go to the outskirts of Kieni in the villages.
Okay.
Which is very interesting because probably he's avoiding a situation where
there will be lots of human people.
Yeah. And I don't know why your list has Embu. I didn't see.
Citizen reports that the projects that Ruto is set to inspect and commission include roads, affordable housing, fresh produce markets, electricity connectivity, water and irrigation So in Kiambu and Laikipia County, the president is expected to inspect the construction of the county aggregation and industrial park. That is in Kiambu.
Okay.
And in Laikipia. But in Nyeri, the most important thing that is going to do there is issue title deeds. You know, and then Meru counties and in Meru and Moranga and Embu counties, is going to inspect ongoing water, sanitation, and sewerage programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all of them, or at least what you're reading through, seems well set out. The other interesting place would be Meru, because remember, this is coming at the backdrop of the governor had been impeached, and then she went to court. The court upheld the decision of the Senate, and so we have a new governor in place. And I think now there are different factions, because the Kawira Mwangaza said it's Ruto who sponsored her impeachment. And
why would Ruto want to impeach her?
Of course, politicians are politicians.
Do you agree? Because I don't think, why would Ruto be interested in impeaching her?
I am not well versed with the politics of that area, but I don't see any connection between Ruto impeaching her and advancing any political agenda in the region. What I know, however, is that there had been protracted violence post 2022, and there was a lot of infighting, and the assembly had a lot of reservations to express about how the governor was leading the county, and there were various attempts to impeach her. Some failed, and then ultimately this particular one sailed through, and the Senate confirmed the impeachment. So that is also expected to take center stage in the visit, because I think the supporters, if any, and if they're able to support the president's visit in the region, are likely to confront probably the other faction that is saying, you're part of the problem here. Why are you coming to address us on anything, if any?
Yeah, and I imagine that the new governor is not going to have a problem with him coming over and looking at the water, sanitation, and sewerage programs.
Interestingly, the current governor, when he was being sworn in, he thanked the president.
For doing what?
Whatever that meant. I don't know what he meant by saying we thank the president.
For?
Probably seeing that he's effectively the governor.
That's very important, because he's still talking about, the president is still talking about revamping the agricultural sector in coffee, tea, dairy farming, infrastructure.
It's exactly what I was saying.
Development.
When the president goes in certain places of this country, what you see is, we want you to be chamaye to whatever, Raila. I like that kind of conversation that is development-minded. But of course, politicians and we the people, I think we reside in different planets. I think.
Do we?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we inhabit a planet of idealism and progress and all the beautiful things, and the politician is someone who wants what is convenient for them at a particular point in time. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
So Ruto is a good example of someone who has learned to swim in the current of history. So Ruto is a good swimmer in the currents of history.
Easy.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
In the lead up to the election, this guy said, no handshake, we are going to bring down the dynasties and whatnot. And then he gets there, and then he realizes that, politics is not, does not deal with absolutes. I have to adjust.
Yeah.
There are probably bad dogs here that I need to deal with. And he takes a 360 degrees turnaround. Why? for his self-preservation. And as part of what I would call containment strategy, decides to go the handshake way, something that he had condemned for.
But a lot of people, including Casmuel, is saying that that what Raila did is not a handshake. What is your understanding of a handshake?
Of course, in our political context, handshake is getting into some sort of agreement with the government of the day and saying we are going to support it, and usually that is preceded by some sort of back channel, behind the scenes negotiation, including political appointees. Last time you're discussing with Casmuel whether the PSs were rallied for or were supported by ODM or Raila Odinga, as it were, and there was a lot of debate whether that was a valid argument. But I think we all know that political compromises in this country means having to then have a say on what the government of the day does, even though you may not enter into a formal agreement like it is with the current handshake. But in many ways, Raila has a say in what happens, and the contradiction that you find with it is, once that has been effected, there's a complete shift, so that you don't have conversations about debt situation. For example, we have known Raila to speak very spiritedly about debt issues, but the moment he steps into government, the conversation shifts and he says, provided we can be told what these monies are meant for, there's no problem with debt. Before he joins government, he can be quite clear about electoral reforms. Once he's in government, he's blindsided. And I believe he carries a good profile as an individual who has championed for a lot of beautiful things in the country. But there's usually a fundamental shift in thinking, and you find a lot of contradictions with that sometimes. Yeah.
The reason why I am wondering what this handshake is all about, because you remember when we, immediately after their so-called handshake, Ruto was touring Kibra and other ODM strongholds. Yeah. And Raila was hands-off around those issues. Yeah. He was not speaking about them. Yeah. He did not accompany the president to those areas. Yeah. And right now, he's also, because right now I feel like Ruto is sort of a lone ranger. Mm-hmm. Because when he was together with Gachagua, it was such a strong duo. Yeah. And they were almost like people with the same, with the, what is the word? With, like, they were equals.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You remember Ruto and Uhuru in their first term. Yeah. They were equals. Yeah. The weight that they dragged.
Time we're talking about co-presidency at the time.
Yes, the co-presidents at the time. Yeah. You saw that at the beginning of this regime. Yeah. But then when obviously Gachagua was derailed, we now have this gentleman called Kindiki, who is not his equal.
A bit laid back, yeah.
He's not his equal. Yeah. And looking at Ruto go about his business, you see a lone ranger rather than a president who is having an equally very powerful vice president. And I don't know whether this is by design, but I see Ruto as very lonely at the top. And Raila is also saying, all right, I'm going to support you, but I'm going to support you from wherever, from Capitol Hill. I'm not going to come out and put on my gumboots and go to Mount Kenya with you. Yeah. Why do you think this is the case? The first question is, do you think that Ruto appears to be very lonely at the hem? And why do you think that Raila does not want to dirty his hands, for lack of a better word?
Okay, two reasons.
Yeah.
So for Kindiki, I think he's learned the script, and he's coming to government, or at least at that level, with a full understanding of what befell Gachagua. So he has a full understanding that Gachagua was so invested in, this thing that, he was the mouthpiece for...
It was his government.
It was his government. So if I am to be safe, then I don't have to be the face of the government, you get. So I think he is just being a good student and learning to take orders and learning to show up where he's been delegated responsibility. So I think that serves him well. If you're laid back, if you're not the face of government, if you don't have to be part of controversial issues, I think that serves you. And I think that works for Ruto as well, because what Gachagua did in so being outspoken and unapologetic about a lot of things is that where there are contradictions with his boss, he'd find himself in a very difficult place, so to speak. So I think it is by design, really, that we don't see much of Kindiki, even in the rest of Mount Kenya, as it were. And for Raila, I think the challenge is he has joined government and struggles with the tag of, a traitor, or as Gen Z would call it, somebody who's come and, sabotaged their intention, even though that intention was not very clear.
Did Raila really sabotage their intention? I remember them calling him an old man who belongs in Bondo. So how has he sabotaged their intentions? Raila did not tell them not to go to the streets anymore. Raila told Ruto not to stop killing them. Raila was basically not interested in whatever Gen Zs wanted to do. And in my understanding and what I saw was that he was protecting them. I remember Ruto and Raila being in Nyanza, in South Nyanza, and standing and saying that I have asked the president not to be abducting, that the abductings of the youth has to stop.
Okay.
So I think that the Gen Z are not honest about who has really sabotaged them. And if you asked me, I think that Gen Zs have sabotaged themselves. One, for being leaderless and claiming that they can take political power or they can derail political power by being amorphous and leaderless. Well, their fears were well-founded that if the moment we have a leader, then these people will rein in on the leader and put into disarray the whole thing. But Raila was not part of it. Raila, they were fighting the government, and if Raila has joined the government, then you are still fighting the government that you are fighting.
No, I think for Gen Z, and I don't hold peace for them, the government was inherently corrupt and inept and incompetent, that everything about it was demonized, including the presidency. So Raila coming to join, President Ruto was for them a contradiction.
Of what?
They're saying if you have this profile of a statesman, if you have this profile of somebody whose contribution in the past is unmatched, why would you come to legitimize a government that lost legitimacy on 25th June, at least in their position? And so to that extent, Raila then portrayed a character of someone who had a mismatch of characters. On one hand, you're championing for reforms and whatnot. On the other hand, you're going to bed with a government that had lost the trust of the people.
Yeah.
And of course, I agree with you that Gen Z also lost the script, because there are a lot of issues that conflated into some sort of reform agenda outside the political system. And that's actually what I love about it, because if you look at Kenya's reform journey, most of the transformation actually come as a result of contribution outside the political system. If you look at the clamor for new constitution, it did not originate with the political class. If you look at the fight for multipartism, whereas you had politicians pushing the card and being part of the process, there's a lot of contribution in the social movement. So I think that is what Gen Z movement was. But they did not find ways to temper their courage with wisdom and knowing how to then move forward. If you want to push your agenda, how are you going to operate without a leader? How are you going to operate without a political vehicle in the name of a party? So I think on that they lost it, and we can see it today. Even how the infighting that has gone post 2024. Yeah, because they're looking for there's no compromise. They're looking for
total removal of the government.
Total removal of the government, and whoever is supposed to step up is some sort of angel, in the sky. I don't know, but the mistakes that they did, and I think it is very normal because it's part of the discovery. I think as people aspire, then they learn to discover through the ropes. Yeah,
I think that the Gen Zs wanted their cake and also to eat it at the same time. Yeah, because remember when Raila Odinga came out in support of the Gen Z movement, the first person to come out was Kasmuel to write to give a very strong rejoinder saying that you do not speak for us.
Yeah.
And Raila sort of had to go back to his own shell because he was aggressively, rebuffed by the same people.
Yeah. So actually, what I needed to stress is the point of moral purity, where you're saying that, okay, we want a leader with this, set of ideals, and you do maybe a background check and. You realize that, maybe when they were in Kenyatta University or wherever they're coming from, they're tainted, their legacy is tainted with so and so and so, and so they're not part of the movement. And I think that is sometimes counterproductive.
Yeah.
There has to be a sense of compromise at some point and say, maybe we can deal with this.
Gachagua, who is right now, I think, is the leader of the Mount Kenya. Yeah. I don't know whether do you really think he's the leader of the Mount Kenya? Because I want you to answer that question, then I can ask you another one. Do you think that he's the undisputed king of Mount Kenya right now?
I think
whatever he says goes.
I think the mountain is as divided as never before, in my estimation. I don't think there's a central point of reference. I don't think there's somebody who can come out and clearly claim that I speak for the mountain. But
Gachagua more or less does.
He may have.
Would you say that he has 70% of the mountain under his wings?
That would not be based on any science or research, but what is historically factual is that the mountain has never been in the same basket, so to speak.
Yeah, but mostly about 80%, like about 80%. Like whenever, but the Mount Kenya votes as a block. True or false? Mostly as a block.
Mostly as a block, yes.
Like you'd say Kalenjins and Luos vote like they have a block of about 100% or 90 something percent. But you'd say Mount Kenya is about 80% block every season.
Whereas Luos and Kalenjins are okay. The political architecture of Mount Kenya in terms of character is that it's a highly egalitarian society, and what that means is that everybody has a contribution and power structures are spread across, and you have different voices at one point in time. So to suggest that whoever is holding the card right now is Gachagua.
Can we go a little back,
to give him a lot of credit?
Can we go back in history and I'll ask you, would you say that Jomo Kenyatta was the voice of the mountain?
To some extent, yes.
Would you say that Kibaki was the voice of the mountain?
Kibaki was the voice of the mountain, but he rode on the back of a lot of promise in terms of how the mountain would be brought together. But remember, in context, there was this guy from Uranga. What's his name again?
Matiba,
yes.
Yeah.
So you could see that division play out.
Would you say that Uhuru Kenyatta was the voice of the mountain?
For Uhuru Kenyatta,
before the betrayal issue.
Before the betrayal issue.
And aggressive, repelling of his idea of bringing Raila to the fold. Yeah. Would you say that he was exposed for the mountain?
Yeah, I think at that point in time,
they
came close.
And when Ruto and Gachagua were campaigning, Gachagua was the voice of the mountain.
Okay.
So would you say that now that that clout that he had has been sort of been interfered with, and by what?
No, I think what maybe may lend credit to what you're saying, or rather credence to what you're saying, is I think because of the feeling that the government has not done a lot of what it needs to do, anybody who seemed to offer alternative voice seemed to carry the aspirations of the people. And for Mount Kenya in particular, I think Gachagua does that, and he seemed to, speak for the people.
Yeah. So having said that, I want to circle back a little bit and ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Ruto is barreling to the 2027 elections, and along the way there are several things that he's doing. So number one is that he wants to strongly bring Raila to the fold. And reignite the Pentagon of, when was it, 2007?
2007, yes.
2007, right? And along the way, he's
in the lead up to the election, there was William Ruto, there was Joe Nyaga, there was Musalia Mudavadi, there was Najib Balala. Mama Ngilu, yes.
Yes. So so that's what I think he's doing, and I think that pretty much he has pocketed Raila Odinga and his constituency. I think, in my estimation. Okay, but also there are very strategic things that he's doing. He's gone to the northern Kenya, part of Kenya, and I don't believe that before that, he did not have the Northern Kenya. He has always had Northern Kenya. Northern Kenya has been in the pocket of KANU for a long time, and this is a student of KANU, and they have no problem with the government of the day, mostly. But he's trying to show up numbers there. A lot of political commentators and pundits are saying that he's trying to show up numbers there by, the registration of voters and the vetting, toning it down so that a lot of people can have the opportunity to have votes. And a lot of pundits are saying that he's doing that so that he can further have numbers during 2027 elections, because if this is the person that has made me have this idea, why should I not vote for him? The other idea is the refugee question, where he's saying that we should have more integration of the refugees in Kenya into our political system, into our economic system, and that is also seen as some people see that as trying to get his voter basket fuller, right? And then we have him still going into the mountains. And trying to say, well, we disagreed. We have had a lot of problems in this relationship, but I think there is something there that we can still, we can still go back and find what put us together in the first place. So I see a man that is really intentional about how to galvanize everything that he can get to pick up all the. It's difficult to then say that 2027 election is going to be difficult for him. And my question, I guess, is, do you think he has a chance of telling the Mount Kenya people that, look, we still have something here, we can reignite this love that is now with the dogs? Do you think?
I think to a great extent the mountain is gone. And for the reasons that I stated.
What then is he pacifying?
No, I mean the center has to hold, even if it is for a short while.
Yeah.
You know. So I think there's a push for him to. This is well within the push for him to, try and pacify that part of the region, at least for the remaining 2 terms or so. However, with the realization that I have lost certain areas of support, I have to look for new friends, and so that is what is informing the need to intensify outreach, especially in northern Kenya, intensify outreach in the coastal region, and intensify outreach in Nyanza region. And I think what we don't understand is the way our politics is ordered, is that we are highly tribal. We may deny it, but identity politics has a role in our politics. And if that is to hold true, then he is beginning from a place of maybe some numbers already assured for him, whereas there are people who feel cheated that the government has not done much of what it promised, and that there's a very huge gulf between what it is doing and what it committed to doing. There are still people who will, at the end of the day, support the government, and it is well within their political rights to do so. So I think what you're asking is now is the outreach to northern Kenya and relaxing some of those protocols well within that agenda. Yes, I think we can agree that every Kenyan has a right to obtain documentation and be registered as Kenyans. But what we're also saying is that a lot of these procedures have history in events of the past and concerns around security. And when you come to relax some of those protocols, and are you saying that we are going to compromise security? So I think those are issues that can be discussed further. But you cannot help but read mischief at some point. And what is happening more and more is that you find yourself in a situation where the government is dealing with public mistrust, that everything it is doing or intending to do, people can read through it and say, even if it is well intended, people can say, we see what you're doing. You're telling us about integration of refugees so that you achieve a certain end, at the end of the day. So I think that is what the government is dealing with, trust deficit.
The last question that I think we can ask ourselves before we end this episode is that I think Ruto is a very different president, so to speak.
In what respect?
In the sense that, you remember Moi, once you decided that you don't like him in a particular region, you will just shy off from that region. And that also happened with
Kenyatta.
Kenyatta, and
Jaramogi, never toured that part of the world again. And we also saw that with Kibaki. Kibaki also just decided, I'm not going to Kisumu. I don't like that godforsaken place, and I'm not going there again. Even Uhuru, at some point, but you see, Ruto is, I wouldn't say imposing himself, but I would say that he's not a man that keeps off. He is a man that looks at issues on the face and saying that I am not deterred. What do you think that that's a good thing for him, or he's basically being a nuisance? No, I think the man is daring. I think he's daring enough. But what you see creeping up is, so we are done with hustler movement, the one that Ruto rode on to the election.
Yeah.
We are done with, maybe tribalism is still going to be here. So can't say we are done with tribalism. But what you see consistently is a push to have regionalism, right? So regionalism is now we are bundled in one corner of the world, and what is our interest? And now Ruto coming to try and speak to those needs and issues. And of course, for some quarters now, there's a growing perception that for a very long time, certain parts of this country have benefited from systemic discrimination, in the sense that government effort has gone into developing, for example, Mount Kenya. So then Ruto is almost falling into the trap of that part of narrative where we are saying, okay, now that you have benefited for an element of political correctness, let us find a way of balancing things out, so we take development in a certain region of the part of the country. And you see that conversation in social spaces where people are saying, how come this constituency is getting this amount of money? How come this constituency that does not have a lot of people have this level of learner-teacher ratio, for example? So I think he's trying really hard to keep things within balance, but at a great cost of political bickering and tension. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alan. That was a very good conversation. Thank you very much, people of the internet. This was Political Headache. We have been discussing Ruto going to, to the mountain once again to appease them, to tell them that, we can still be friends, we can still be buddies, and Kenya ni yetu sisi sote. All right. So please subscribe. Please leave a comment if you want to appear on this podcast. You are very much welcome. Until another episode. Bye for now.